today it's $8 trillion. $8 trillion. At the time we were talking, it was $4 trillion. So we've gone through another crisis since then. And so this store of value, this idea that purchasing power will go up over time if demand rises relative to supply ultimately fixed at 21 million units. That's a very good thing. Purchasing power going up globally around the world. And this idea that it's a hedge against confiscation of wealth. And that can take place in a myriad of ways. But inflation, and especially hyperinflation in emerging markets, is the primary way. Talk about destroying purchasing power. So that's a very big idea. And I'll also mention deflation. In some ways, it's a hedge against deflation. I know some people are confused that we at ARK think that we're in a deflationary environment here in the United States. If that is true, the odds of a hyperinflation in the rest of the world, especially in emerging markets, is also true. So, but this deflation, and we learned from 0809, there's counterparty risk associated with deflation. And I think Bitcoin would be a hedge against that eventuality as well. So it's a very big idea.
Right. I suspect among us, there's not a lot of debate about Bitcoin's potential as a store of value. But Jack, you referenced earlier it being or becoming the native currency of the internet. Can you speak more to that, and also how it relates to maybe how institutions think about it?
Yeah, I mean, like just simple example. If I happen to be in Ghana and my family is in Nigeria, currently I can take anywhere from and I need to send money back, anywhere from 10 to 30% off the top just to send that money back. Whereas if you just focus on the worldwide remittance problem, Bitcoin solves so many of those problems today instantly without having to go through any intermediaries or any slowness or complicated systems that a corporation or a state created. So I think having sound money that is separate from the state is the idea. Having it completely verifiable by everyone, including the state, including corporations, including individuals, including developers who want to build on top of it, is quite powerful, and that's what keeps it secure and strong. And I think that's we need more of that, which is why this one of the reasons why this conversation is so important is as entities come into the space, it's not just buying an asset and holding on to an asset and treating it as an investment. There's something special that created this, and something precious and something very unique, which has to be protected, and we need to do whatever we can to help that thrive as well.
Elon, I'm curious your opinion on this. You mentioned earlier about Bitcoin's throughput, or the importance of throughput, maybe some concerns around Bitcoin. Can you speak, do you think Bitcoin can become peer-to-peer cash?
Well, Bitcoin does have a fundamental scarcity limit at the base layer that's designed in. That doesn't mean you can't have some layer 2 system in theory like Lightning. And I understand Lightning is doing well in some small countries. There's some question mark as to whether you need a money transmitter license. Just a debate as to whether that's needed, given that it is not open ledger. So that's a whole separate debate, of course. But Bitcoin by itself simply cannot scale to be the monetary system for the world at base layer. But with a second layer, this is possible depending upon how that second layer is implemented. Yeah, that's part of why I think there may be some merit to something that may seem silly, like Ethereum, like Dogecoin. I think Ethereum also, like I said, the three things I own outside of SpaceX and Tesla, and obviously it's a Neuralink and Boring Company, but of any significance are Bitcoin by far, and then some Ethereum and some Doge. So if the price of Bitcoin goes down, I lose money. I'm not sort of I might pump, but I don't dump. So, it's not a case of, I definitely do not believe in getting the price high and selling or anything like that. And I would like to see Bitcoin succeed. I think there's some merit to, this is not a slam on Bitcoin, there's some merit to considering something that has a higher max transaction rate and a lower transaction cost, and kind of seeing how far you could take a single layer network where the exchanges act as a de facto second layer. I think you can probably take that further than people realize, and as bandwidth increases over time, latency decreases. SpaceX's Starlink is actually playing a role in this, and I think long term people will probably have access to worldwide access to gigabit level connectivity at low latency, and so at low cost. And so then your base layer could do a lot of transactions if you take that into account. So yeah, but like I said, Bitcoin with a layer 2 system, so they could scale to do a vast number of transactions. Same goes for Ethereum.
Question about the scaling at the layer 1. The concern from the past 5 years of debate in the Bitcoin community is that would sacrifice too much decentralization and hurt the censorship-resistant properties of Bitcoin. I'm curious if what are your thoughts on that? Are you sensitive to that? And are you concerned about losing some of the special properties of Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency by scaling at layer 1?
Yeah, I mean, these things are, it's helpful to use the physics tools of thinking and say, scale up, scale down, and see if it still makes sense. So if scaling up the transaction block doesn't make sense, why don't you scale it down? And have it be, so that somebody, with a laptop from 2008 can still run a Bitcoin node. Why not slow it down? Oh, you want to slow it down? Well, maybe you're at the wrong number then.
there's actually there's members in the community that do want to slow it down, but I understand your point.
It's silly. The reality is the average person is not going to run a Bitcoin node. So this is and Bitcoin, it was a lot of clever ideas, but these parameters were set, I don't know, in 2008 or something, maybe 2009. And there's been some improvements since then, but not a lot. So, it's sort of like there was still in 2008 there was still a non-trivial number of people on modems. So, now it is quite common to get 100 megabit connection just for a house. Some houses have gigabit connections. So, and that trend is obviously in the direction of higher bandwidth and lower latency. And if somebody else doesn't do it, Starlink certainly will. So I have high confidence that you will be able to maintain a decentralized finance system while still having a much bigger blockchain, aka ASCII text ledger, a hash ledger. You can make the hash ledger bigger without suffering from decentralization as the average connectivity improves, obviously.
One idea would be to to put a Bitcoin full node in Starlink terminals. That way more people would be running it.
Actually, I have run this by the team at one point. I had this idea, which is kind of off the wall, but let's say you need a little space heater. And normally your space heater would just be pure entropy. But what if that space heater was also a Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge mining node? Pick your currency. And so then you'd be heated up, and you would also mine your crypto and have connectivity in one.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, better than running a space heater.
Absolutely. Are there any other So you're drawn to Dogecoin a little bit. Are there any other gaps in Bitcoin that you see that cause you to be drawn towards Dogecoin?
I think, I mean, I think there's Doge has the Doge community. I think is somewhat irreverent, obviously, and has great memes and loves dogs, and I love dogs and memes, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think there's Occam's razor, which is the simplest answer is the most likely. It's a summary of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the most likely one. Then there's a friend of mine came up with a variant on that the most ironic outcome is the most likely one. And then I have a variant on that, which is the most entertaining outcome is the most likely one. So if that is true, then the most ironic and entertaining outcome would be that the cryptocurrency that was started as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies ends up being the leading cryptocurrency. That would be the most ironic outcome.
Jack, what are your thoughts on that? Is Bitcoin resilient enough to overcome that?
I think it's resilient, but also I think like you find. I mean, that's what attracts me to Bitcoin in the first place is the irreverence. A lot of that just brings it forward, and at first go it makes it a little bit inaccessible, but as people get into it, it makes it more accessible and more spreadable. And I absolutely think the resilience is there. I think it's important to have fun as well. And anyway, folks can express themselves. I think that goes back to the main idea of like how do we create a native currency for the internet? Anything that goes towards that path, like that's whatever wackiness or fun we can have along the way. That's going to make it a lot more enjoyable, and it's going to make a lot more people want to use it.
I'd also point out there's nothing stopping someone from creating a Bitcoin wallet that's like fun and has memes, has dogs. That's possible as well. Great. Let's move on.
Right now at this point.
Let's move on to the next topic, which is Bitcoin and energy. It's a really hot topic that lots of people are talking about. Let's start with Elon. You've been vocal on this. You've said that. I mean, you said many things about it. You've also said that Tesla will resume payments in Bitcoin payments if the renewable energy is approximately 50% and sort of looks like it's on a positive future trend. What do you think the state of things are with respect to that?
Yeah, so I do think that there appears to be a positive trend in the energy usage of Bitcoin. Actually, part of this is due to the drop in Bitcoin price. What I observed, or what I thought I was seeing, there may be some disagreements on this, but from when Tesla announced that it had acquired Bitcoin and was doing Bitcoin transactions, there was a massive run-up in the Bitcoin price, and also a massive increase in the amount of energy used to mine Bitcoin. And I think I understand renewable energy quite a bit. I mean, Tesla does solar and interacts with a lot of wind generation through our mega pack, because basically need to store energy from wind and from solar. So we're pretty plugged into the renewable energy industry. And there was just no way that you could basically double or triple the amount of energy in such a short period of time with renewables. But you could shovel coal that fast. And so I was like, look, this is too sketchy. Tesla's mission is accelerating the advent of sustainable energy. We can't be the company that does that and also not do appropriate diligence on the energy usage of Bitcoin. So all I did was I said, look, we're going to suspend Bitcoin transactions for now. We're not selling any Bitcoin, nor am I selling anything personally, or nor is SpaceX selling any Bitcoin. Again, I want to emphasize SpaceX, Tesla, and I own Bitcoin. I also own a little bit of Ethereum and Doge, but the companies just own Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin that I own is worth much more than the Ethereum or Doge. So clearly, if I'm these actions negatively affect me financially, if I was purely financially motivated, then I would not express this reticence about Bitcoin energy usage. Now, it looks like Bitcoin is shifting a lot more towards renewables, and a bunch of the heavy-duty coal plants that were being used, unequivocally being used, this is not a question mark, have been shut down, especially in China. So I think it's probably, we want to do a little bit more diligence to confirm could confirm that the percentage of renewable energy usage is most likely sort of at or above 50%, and that there is a trend towards increasing that number, and if so, then Tesla will resume Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin. So I think we want to just do a little bit more diligence, and I think, but most likely the answer is that Tesla would resume accepting Bitcoin, most likely.
That's
Steve,
great to hear. I would agree with that. Cathie?
Yeah, may I ask a question? Elon, I'm not quite sure if you saw the paper that Square and ARK did together on making Bitcoin mining a part of a utility, a broad-based utility ecosystem, whereby, the overage from sunshine or wind powers the Bitcoin mining machine, thereby enabling the proliferation of renewables to a much faster extent, or at a faster rate than otherwise would be the case. What do you think of that?
Well, the problem is that in order to operate so-called mining or hashing rigs, in order to operate a bunch of hashing rigs, effectively, you have to run them 24/7, which means you need base load. You can do that with solar and wind plus battery, but if you only did it based on solar or wind overage, your hashing rig utilization would be much less. So you'd be at a disadvantage.
Sure,
hydro or geothermal are great as renewable means. I'm also pro nuclear. I think modern nuclear power plants are safe, contrary to what people may think. I really think it's possible to make very, very extremely safe nuclear. I'm talking about fission. You don't need fusion. And then, of course, fusion. You just got that big fusion reactor in the sky called the sun. It comes up every day. But I think a combination of solar and wind plus stationary storage will get you that base load, so you can run hashing 24/7.
Okay. Jack, I'm curious. You've stated that Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy. That's what we're talking about now. Do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Elon said and Cathie mentioned, but it's also incentivizing a lot of innovation in just energy space, and just like looking at unused energy. There's a company called Great American Mining that caps the methane flares on oil fields to power their rigs. And you just imagine, and you mentioned nuclear, Elon, as well, and just imagine all the unused energy that is just being wasted every single day. And being able to get that energy and converting it into a secure, sound money system for the planet feels like a worthy trade-off. And that's the sort of incentive that I think is most powerful, is like, how do we reuse what is being currently just dumped on the ground and wasted and not considered, and how do we do that at scale? And I think that's a bigger conversation that I think is missing. But I agree with everything that Elon has said, and also the paper we put forth.
I'm curious if any of you have thoughts on how what the industry can do to accelerate the transition to renewable energy. And like Elon specifically, could Tesla Energy or Starlink play a role?
Well, I think Tesla can play a role. Tesla's literal reason for existence. The reason I've put so much of my life energy into Tesla, which is a lot. In fact, I would say that I've had some pretty tough life experiences, and Tesla is responsible for probably 2/3 of all personal and professional pain combined. Just to give you a sense of perspective there. So this is a hella hard situation. But we do solar, commercial solar, solar retrofit, as well as the solar roof, and we make consumer battery packs called Powerwall for houses and small businesses, and then the utility scale, which are gigantic. These we've done now a number of gigawatt hour installations. That's a lot. That's a lot. And a lot of them actually have been for load leveling the grid. Mostly they are, and combined with the first really big one we did, which is 100 megawatt installation in Australia. That's actually helped stabilize a huge portion of the South Australian grid, because it's able to react so fast. In fact, at first, because they've got a billing system in Australia that I think works at the sort of millisecond level, and we were operating at the microsecond level. So the system was operating so fast that the measuring system couldn't see it. But so Tesla's certainly doing a lot to enable renewables, especially wind and solar. And in fact, the limiting factor for us right now is cell production. So we need to both internally get the Tesla internal battery cells produced, as well as increase supply from suppliers. I mean, generally, when I talk to our suppliers and they say, how many cells would you like us? How many cells can you make? Because sometimes they're like concerned, like, well, is Tesla going to compete with them on cells? I'm like, no. If you want to make the cells, be our guest. It's just that we need a crazy number of batteries, and they need to be done. It also needs to be mined and produced and manufactured in an ethical and environmentally sound way. So, Tesla, we really do aspire to be the good guys, to be a company that people can believe in. That doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, but that's what we try. So, but I think generally hydro, especially existing hydro, is good for mining. Geothermal, there's lots of places in the world that have geothermal energy. Like I said, nuclear is also good. I think just I'm like as I said earlier, the expectation is not like that the energy production must be pure as the driven snow, but it must it can't be using it also cannot be using the world's dirtiest coal, which it was for a moment there. That's just difficult for Tesla to support in that situation. So I think, but I do think long-term renewable energy will actually be the cheapest form of energy. It just doesn't happen overnight. But as long as there is a conscious and determined and real effort by the mining community to move towards renewables, then obviously Tesla can support that.
That's great. Cathie, we've been talking a lot about energy, but many institutions are facing questions around Bitcoin's relationship with ESG.